Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, July 7th, 2013, where we last left off. Phyllis is in Kyle's arms, having just thrown herself off of a step stool while decorating for Jack's surprise party, and she forces a kiss on him while Abby is standing off to the sidelines, gawking at this scene in utter disbelief. I would be too, frankly. Tracy interrupts. She bursts through the door. She's ready to plan Jack's surprise party, completely oblivious to what she just walked in on. And I think everybody pulled apart. Abby sort of, everybody sort of stiffens up. Phyllis and Kyle pull apart. And this wave of super guilt washes over both Kyle and Phyllis. They do and should feel guilty for what's happening in this moment. But I also think that a secondary wave of complete confusion is washing over Kyle as well. This thing with Phyllis has come out of nowhere. Phyllis never returned any of his advances that he was making months ago when he's interested in her, and now that he is dating her daughter, all of a sudden she's interested in him. He's not putting two and two together on this. I think he's just dumbfounded, which seems to be the emotion that he exudes more often than not. Abby is super pissed. She can't believe her own eyes. In a way, I wonder if she halfway expects this type of behavior from Phyllis, because everybody sort of halfway expects this sort of behavior from Phyllis. But Kyle is another story. Abby thinks Kyle's better than this, and she wants to just pop his head right off for what he's doing. How could you do this to Summer and to Jack? Now, Jack is blissfully unaware of anything, any of the drama that's going on around Summer and Phyllis. He walks in for his surprise party and he practices his surprise face. This is his practiced surprise face for his party, and he's so happy in this moment. He is surrounded by everyone he loves, everyone in his family that means everything to him. If we know anything about Jack's character, it's that family and having them around and in the Abbott house is what he wants more than anything, as long as he doesn't have to sacrifice whatever has to do with business to get the family or to keep the family. But his absolute joy in this moment made the betrayal so much worse, made it so much heavier. And I can't even believe that Phyllis has taken it to this level. I can't believe that this is her solution to the paternity problem. And I got a really good voicemail from a Y&R chat friend, Michael, this week that got me thinking, why didn't Phyllis just hire someone to seduce Kyle? She didn't have to do it herself. I guess it almost speaks to Phyllis's ego that no one else could really do the job. This is go time. This is a desperate situation. It's calling for desperate measures, and no one else could possibly seduce Kyle or, the way that she could. Her feminine powers are so overwhelming, any man will just drop whatever they're doing to succumb to her. But it really, really makes her look bad, I think. It makes her look to the people around her like Tracy was right all along. Tracy believed that Phyllis was going to hurt Jack again, and this, whether that's the intention or not, is going to hurt Jack again. So give Tracy the crystal ball, because she predicted the future. Phyllis hurt Jack again. And it is going to be very, very difficult to process. There was one little break in the surprise party that I thought really deserved some attention. The whole family is there celebrating Jack's party, or Jack's birthday, and Billy busts in, and he's drunk. And he is just wobbling all over the place, and you think he's gonna make a complete ass out of himself, but that's not what happened. He pulls out a bar napkin that he has written this awesome letter to Jack on, and it was very, very moving. Billy was talking about how Jack is the man that he wants to be, and I do think that's true. I think Billy has always looked up to Jack and wished that he could be someone who kept it together, even though we know that's not the case with Jack all the time. But, I mean, Jack has certainly his flaws, but Billy said Jack is the glue that really holds the family together. He is the anchor. And it was just, I thought, a really sweet moment, and Jack was visibly moved, and he just did the most wonderful thing by gracefully escorting Billy out of the party. It was like he understood what Billy was saying, he appreciated it, but he just gracefully escorts him out the door, almost so that he doesn't make a further fool out of himself. I just thought that was just a really kind of precious moment between those two. And I wish that we had been seeing more of Billy and Jack's relationship all along. I wish that this would have been building a little bit more, because Billy and Jack had a falling out, I think over, what was it? Billy was spying at Newman for Victoria, and they really had a hard time speaking to each other again after that, and now all of a sudden there is this closeness between them, which I really enjoy. I wish it would have been there all along, because it was really quite touching, and I think that Jack, in a way, helps to redeem Billy a little bit for me, helps anchor Billy in who he is, that he is an abbot, and that John is his father. Billy is not very much like John when it all boils down, but I like having that touchstone to John, and it was kind of a cool little scene. It also got Jack out of the way. Jack leaves the house so that Phyllis and Kyle finally have a moment alone together. It's hanging in the air like a cloud of dust, and finally Phyllis and Kyle are able to talk, and Kyle is immediately, I think, wanting to apologize for it, and Phyllis says, look, I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry about what just happened. Just saying enough to keep Kyle on the line, as in, that's just a taste, young man. There's more where that came from. You know, just in a subtle, like, undertone sort of way, I guess. I don't know, maybe it wasn't subtle at all. It was pretty, overt, actually. But it was enough to intrigue Kyle. It was enough to really re-spark that interest, because immediately, like faster than you can say infidelity, Kyle turns around and tells Summer things are moving too fast. We better back this off. Come on, like, how much could Kyle have really liked Summer and really cared for Summer in the first place if he was so willing to drop her? If this with Phyllis was enough to deter him even a little bit? I mean, Kyle seems to, like, honestly think that he has a shot with Phyllis, and I don't also know how he could do that to his father. Where is your loyalty to your father? I mean, Phyllis, a girlfriend, is one thing. Men and women kind of screw each other over all the time. But it's like an optional relationship. But you can't ever get away from the fact that Jack is your father, and you are interested, subconsciously or otherwise, in pursuing something with Phyllis, whether it's just sex or something more emotional, but he's interested in it, and it's enough to completely make him want to back off of Summer. And he said to Abby, later, who is like hovering over him like a hawk, can't wait to understand what the heck was going on between him and Phyllis. Wants that juice, wants that dirt, wants to know what the heck's going on. Kyle tells Abby that he's breaking up with Summer now so that he doesn't hurt her later. As in, I have tendencies of wanting to be with many women, and so I'm just going to save Summer that trouble and that heartache, and I'm just going to break up with her now because he likes to play the field, I think is what he was saying. And personally, I feel like I don't know Kyle that well because there's been such an abrupt change in the character with the recast, and just the character doesn't feel like it's sticking with me. But at the same time, I feel like Kyle just realized Summer was cramping his style. This is not really what I want. I mean, Phyllis was able to plant the seed of, you guys don't really have that much in common, so why would you want to be together anyway? And then now, yeah, I guess I could get other women. I don't really need Kyle. That's not a very attractive quality, Kyle. It's certainly not helping me like him a whole lot more. That he could even do this to his father is abhorrent. I think maybe Jack would be able to forgive Kyle because Phyllis is the suitor. Kyle is younger. Kyle is more impressionable. Phyllis should know better, and I don't think that Jack is ever going to be able to forgive Phyllis for this, even if she explains the situation. It's irrational behavior. Michelle Stafford is not being recast. So she is leaving the show. This is going to be Jack's straw. That's going to be his last straw. But the thing that I do enjoy, and I wish she was sticking around for, I wish that Michelle Stafford would stay with the show and see this through, because I would like to explore a little bit more the irony of the situation. I think most people kind of know back in the past there was a father-son triangle that Jack was involved in. John Abbott was married to Jill, and Jack was having an affair with Jill. So it's a weird circle. It's coming back around to Jack, and I kind of wish that we could dig into that a little bit more, but I guess we're not going to if she's leaving for good. I really don't think there's going to be a recast. So far, they have said that they're not recasting. So, and it would just be impossible. I think that would be tough. That'd be a tough one to swallow. But, you never know. I never thought I would be able to accept Amelia Heinel as Victoria, and I do. So, you never know. I don't know. I'm open to it. Plus, the rumor that Michelle Stafford is going to General Hospital, if that's true, and I don't know that it is at all, it tells me that she's maybe still hanging around in the soap world and that she will possibly come back. When she said she was leaving the show, I initially thought, oh, she's just done, maybe kind of done with acting for a while, wants to take a break, focus on her family. But if she's going to another soap, that tells me the door is left open for a return in the not too distant future. Anyway, I think Jack is going to have a really hard time forgiving Phyllis because she was the aggressor. I think Summer is going to have a really freaking hard time forgiving her mother when she finds that out. It's like layers of circle and layers of betrayal. It's going to be very difficult for Summer to move on from this. She's having a hard time understanding why Kyle would dump her, but she knows at the same time Phyllis laid all this groundwork. Phyllis made sure that Summer heard phone calls while they were off in Chicago, and Phyllis made sure to show that she and Kyle were developing a closeness. It is so ridiculous that Phyllis would take this route, but Summer knows that it's not some huge coincidence that Kyle's dumping her after he spent the weekend with her mother. So Summer goes to Jack, actually. I don't think she wanted to tell him, but she's crying, and Jack wants to console her. They're becoming close. Console her. They're becoming close, and she kind of blurts out that Kyle dumped her, which it makes Kyle look bad to Jack, makes Kyle look bad to Nick. Everybody speculated that he was going to hurt her sooner or later, and he ended up doing it anyway. So Summer is absolutely distraught. She doesn't know what to do with herself. There was this little scene that kind of got tacked on. Summer goes to Sharon's house to visit Faith, and she gives Faith a bracelet. It's almost like one of those best friend sort of bracelet situations where Faith has a bracelet that says little sis, and Summer has a bracelet that says big sis. And you know, I agree with you, Gary. A YNR chat friend called into the voicemail and said it did feel a little bit tacked on, like just there so that we're going to be able to feel Summer's full and complete pain at realizing that she doesn't even have a sister. She's not related to any of these people, and that bond that she thought was so strong is no longer going to be there. It did feel a little bit tacked on, and also because Summer is just so incredibly immature, it's hard to believe that she would take a moment out of her selfishness to connect with her little sister. You know, she says, it's a birthday present, but I wanted you to have, and I know your birthday's not for a couple months, but I wanted you to have it now. I don't know. She is so immature. After she leaves Summer, she runs away. She runs away because a boy doesn't like her. I mean, I'm not saying that it shouldn't hurt, but it shows her maturity level. And I guess I don't know. If this is how she reacts at being dumped by a guy, because she doesn't know that there's all this other stuff is going on. All she knows is that Kyle has dumped her. If she's this upset and reacts this way, running away as an 18-year-old to Chicago after being dumped, what is she going to do when she finds out that her entire life is based on a lie? I mean, they end up finding out through Courtney, her really bad influence friend, that she went to Chicago. And I think next week, Nick and Phyllis are going to follow her to Chicago. Maybe Jack too, I'm not sure. But I believe that that lie is going to blow up in a big bad way in Chicago. So we'll definitely keep an eye on next week because that is probably going to come out. Now, Summer is very upset about everything that's going on with her life, but at least she still has a job. Very kind of another sort of brief touch upon this week was that all of a sudden out of nowhere, I guess because, you know, of the change that went on in management at Jabot, where Tyler left and now Devon's in control of the fashion campaign, they have decided to fire Mason and only go ahead with Summer as the model. They want to focus on the female models and not the male. So now Mason is at the underground telling Noah, first of all, he's all walking around like he's the big man, he's a model. 2 seconds later, he gets a phone call that says he's fired, and now it's like completely deflated in an instant. He's yet again unemployed, yet again needs a job. He's gonna be, you know, Noah offers him a potential job slinging drinks at the underground, but like, gosh, either do something with Mason or get rid of him. We don't need another bartender. I don't know where they're headed, but speaking of casting changes that are desperately needed, I'm sorry, Abby and Kyle are both really not working for me. Kyle, I don't know, they're both just bad. I'm sorry. Watching Abby in particular, like Kyle, I can almost like, maybe, I guess. But Abby has had way more lines since coming on than new Abby's had way more lines than new Kyle. And new Abby just, it's painful. It is painful for me to listen to her say the lines. When she had a conversation with Kyle, when she finally confronted him over what she saw with he and Phyllis, she had this line where she said, she was speaking of Phyllis, and she said, that strumpet, that hussy, that slut. And it was so, like, community theater. Like, there was no feeling in it, whatever. Just, that strumpet, that hussy, ooh, that slut. I mean, it's a national TV show. It's a pretty big gig. There was no, she basically just said the lines. There was no feeling in it whatsoever. If I had just walked in on that situation, I would have been like, that strumpet, that hussy, oh, that slut, you know? I mean, it would have been bigger. And she's just very, very flat. I wish Y&R would just recast that. It's just really not working. It's kind of like New Summer. Remember when they first recast Summer with that girl with no personality? Say what you will about the Summer we have now. She at least brings a little bit of personality. She's a little different. She's distinct. New Abby is absolutely not distinct to me. And Kyle, as far as Kyle goes, I don't think it's the actor's fault necessarily. I think Y&R needed to establish the new actor before just throwing him center stage like this. I feel like I'm supposed to be, and I could be feeling so much more for him and his perspective, but he's just a placeholder. It's like he's just a Ken doll that they put in there, and I don't feel like I'm connecting with him whatsoever. It feels like a missed opportunity for me. They should have just kept the current actor. You know, it's a miss. It feels like a miss for me, and you know, considering the fact that both Abby and Kyle just are so mind-boggling to me, like watching Abby and Kyle in scenes together is just like a big bag of boring. Nick wants to tell Avery so bad. He doesn't feel right keeping this secret from her, but Phyllis has asked him to not spread this news, not share this secret until the people who it actually affects are able to find out. But Nick can't hold it in any longer. He finally works up the courage to tell Avery, and Phyllis happens to walk in and happens to overhear him doing this. And she's not happy that Nick is changing his mind now. They had an agreement. Here is Nick going back on it. He's so weak right now. He is so wavering right now. And I can totally understand where Phyllis is coming from, why she would not want Avery to know. And it was very, very interesting how Avery took the news. Nick tells her Phyllis is there in the room, but Nick only gives Avery enough information to make an incorrect assumption. He tells Avery that Summer is not his daughter, and that there was a paternity test and there was a secret, basically. That it was a paternity test and a secret. And Avery automatically assumes that Phyllis was the one who did the tampering with the paternity test, that Phyllis had trapped Nick into a marriage by lying about the paternity of the child, and she goes off on Phyllis. It is so visceral. Avery says to her, "How can you play God like this? How could you do this?" And Phyllis is just standing there like, really? Really? And Nick is in the background not really saying, not really correcting Avery in any way, but he's almost just letting the Avery bomb go off as a test to see how she's going to react when she finds out that it was actually him that did the tampering. And it should be. If Avery had this reaction like Phyllis is the most horrible person in the world for doing this, then the same should go for Nick. She should really have the same reaction when she finds out that it was him. I think that at the end of the day, Avery is going to need to side with her sister on this one. I think Avery's loyalty to her sister has been very shifty, but if she thought it was unforgivable when she thought it was Phyllis, she should think the same for Nick. I think ultimately Avery's going to have to side with Phyllis on this one. I think ultimately she's going to leave Nick, and that's going to be fine because Sharon is at home flipping through photo albums, thinking about the life that she could have had, looking at fresh-faced, young, just married Nick and Sharon, looking at them as they're just babes and thinking about how things could have been so different. But I tell you, I am thinking right now that even if Phyllis hadn't gotten pregnant, their marriage still had problems. Nick and Sharon still had a lot of issues, and even if Phyllis hadn't gotten pregnant, that wouldn't wash away everything that happened before, and it wouldn't wash away everything that happened after Cassie, they still were having problems. Sharon was still having affairs. Nick was still having affairs. And in fact, I got quite a lot of really good feedback from YNR chat fans and friends about the Sharon and Nick and Adam situation, and just very specifically on Sharon. And I got a lot of really good comments. First, Aaron Brody on YouTube left me a comment, and I had requested this, a list of everyone that Sharon has slept with since she's been on the show. And it's a really long list. Are you ready? Okay, first we have Cassie's dad, whoever that guy was, but she slept with him and got pregnant. Then she went to Nick, had sex with him. I don't remember if it was while they were married or after, but she had sex with Matt Clark. I sort of think maybe that was a rape situation, I want to say, or he had forced himself on her. And maybe that is something that scarred her so far that it created the Sharon that we see today. But she also slept with Cameron Kirsten, I want to say his last name was. Then she was sort of bored in her marriage with Nick, so she ended up sleeping with Diego, who I think was a stable hand, I want to say. Erin had mentioned that she slept with someone named Scott, but I don't remember who that is. Do you guys, who's Scott? That one, I don't remember. But I do, of course, remember her sleeping with Brad. Of course, it was kind of hot. I really sort of liked her and Brad, but then again, I thought Brad was hot. She slept with Billy while she was married to Jack, by the way. And then, of course, she slept with Jack because she was married to him. She slept with Adam, of course. She slept with Victor. Ew. She slept with Tucker. And that's just the ones we know about. She slept with the guy last week at the bar. I think there was like 2 guys that it was implied she was sleeping around with. So those are just the ones that we know about. And that is a dozen. That is over a dozen men that we know about. Now, I'm not saying Nick was any kind of angel. If you guys want to list all of the women that Nick has slept with, please feel free. I would love to hear it. Off the top of my head, I remember he slept with Grace Turner. That was an interesting triangle. I hated Grace. And let's see, did he sleep with Christine? I don't know, you guys are way better at knowing all the history than me because my memory is faulty. But if anybody wants to leave me a list of everybody Nick has slept with. My point is, the relationship between Nick and Sharon was not as idyllic as she's making it seem. And I got another really good voicemail, actually 2 from one from YNR chat friend Kim and one from Patricia. And Kim had mentioned that Sharon self-medicates with sex. When she's unhappy, that is what her reaction is, which to me says she was unhappy with Nick all along the way. I don't know why we're suddenly forgetting about that. But, you know, Patricia really said the same thing, and I guess I didn't really think about it before. Everybody's got their addiction in a way. Everybody's got their vice, and Sharon's seems to be that it's sex, and on some level she wants to be bad. And another point that Patricia had made, by the way, Patricia, instantly uplifted by your voice messages. It's wonderful. She had mentioned that Sharon wanted to be with Adam and wanted to be on the, outside. Because Adam was on the outside, Sharon sort of wanted that. But now that Adam's on the inside, and she's on the outside, she wants back in. So it's almost as if Sharon always kind of wants what she can't have, and if she can't have it with Adam, then her way back in is with Nick. And I think it's not going to work out the way she wants it to. I do think YNR is pushing a Nick and Sharon reunion, but at the same time, I don't know if it's going to last. I mean, you know, Kim had left a point that really spoke to me too. Like, why is Sharon's reaction to finding out about Summer's paternity so understanding? Why is, shouldn't she be angry about that? He lied to her to get out of his marriage with her. Why is she being so like, oh, Nick, this changes everything? I mean, first of all, it's a plot device. It's absolutely not necessarily consistent with how Sharon should react. But I don't think it does really make sense. Sharon is so unstable right now. But there also, Kim had mentioned, a rumor out there that maybe Sharon could have tampered with the second set of paternity test results, the one that Nick just recently did. And I think, well, that's a possibility. There was a moment when she was at Cassie's grave and kind of talking about how she had to do what she did. I don't know if she was talking about that or if she was just talking about her life in general, having to travel the path she had chosen. But it is certainly possible that Sharon could have tampered with those tests. She seems to want Nick, and she seems to be very sure that she's going to have him back. Sharon, again, she's so inconsistent that I imagine that she could go off and do this wild thing. Wasn't she hanging around at the lab? I mean, there was the point where Nick went in to deliver his hair samples or DNA samples or whatever it was. Sharon bumped into him in the hall. After he left, she very well could have gone in there and tampered with it. So I don't like that, though. I feel like I was wanting Sharon to be rebuilt. Sharon is a broken woman by all accounts, and I want Sharon to be rebuilt, and I feel that her focusing all of her energy on Nick is wrong. It's not the path to healthiness. I think Sharon should focus on being a good mom to Faith and finding out who she is and creating a life as a whole for herself first. Like, worry about getting Nookie and a new man later. Billy goes home to his home with Victoria, and he sees lying on the living room table the pregnancy test that Victoria took last week, and he's screaming for Victoria to come downstairs, and he says, "You're pregnant." And she tells him no, she's not pregnant. She denies it. But I tell ya, I wonder if she's lying. I wonder if Victoria is actually pregnant and she just didn't want to tell Billy because she seems to feel that she is at a fork in the road where she has to choose between her family and her protecting her children and her love for him, and she's clearly choosing her children. But they start to argue again. They have a lot of problems. She's worried about the family that she already has, and so she doesn't want to pile on by continuing a relationship with a man that she feels is putting that in jeopardy. So she leaves him. And now meanwhile, Victor and Nikki are back from Tuscany, and they're sitting in their living room, and Nikki is admiring this Italian glass bowl or some type of ceramic bowl that she's purchased for Avery as a wedding gift, and she's thinking, oh, do I want it? Is this the right one? It was kind of cute. They have no idea that that marriage is never going to happen and what's about to go down with Victoria, but Victoria walks through the door. Next thing you know, she's gone back to Mommy and Daddy's house, and she's hoping to lean on them. I don't know why she didn't just go to a hotel or something, because who would want to deal with the wrath of Victor? I mean, the second she walks in the door, Victor says, what did Billy Boy do this time? You know? I mean, that's exactly the reaction he was going to have. It was completely typical. Like, marrying Billy was the biggest mistake of your life. Don't you see that, sweetheart? Yada, yada, yada. It's that. It's always, he's like a loop. And it doesn't really even matter who Victoria is married to. He has a loop of responses that he has for degrading the man that she's with. Victor wants to control the situation immediately, but he can't. I mean, I've said it a million times. I personally would not want my daughter to be married to Billy. I think he's a lovable screw-up, but the screw-up part seems to have long since outweighed the lovable part for me. I I got another good voicemail from Y&R chat friend Betsy, who says she still loves Billy, and I know that there are a lot of people out there that do love Billy, and a lot of people that put the I guess weight of the problems of their marriage on Victoria. Victoria is indecisive. She wants him, she doesn't want him, she wants a baby, she wants to go back to Newman Enterprises. She doesn't know what she wants, and it's difficult for Billy to do that dance with her. So I absolutely see that point. It's a very good point. There are two sides to every story, 100%. Gary called in, pretty much said the same thing. Victoria is always on Billy, always hounding him, and I think it's true. They're probably both insufferable in some ways. I wouldn't want to be married to either of them. I mean, their differences were very cute at first, when it was, oh my gosh, a Newman and an Abbott, oh, Victor's gonna be so mad about this. And they're in Jamaica, and they're dancing on the beach, and they're so different that it's cute. But now they're just different, and it's glaring. I'm not saying that they can't recover from this, but I think they're both going to have to budge a little bit. And I will agree that it does seem that Billy is the only one that's kind of doing the budging, but at the same time, he made a big mistake. I understand Victoria wanting to protect her child and protect her family, and Billy is just a mess. In addition to having the gambling problem, he's drinking quite a bit now. He busted up in that surprise party for Jack, drunk, and now he got sober to go talk to Victoria, and then he got drunk again after that conversation and goes to Jack's house. I do like the actor. I do think the actor is good. He makes me feel things, whether it's positive or negative, and he's a funny drunk. Like, I don't know, I just thought the way Billy Miller was playing it made me chuckle just a little bit. He's got that sense of humor when he's drunk, but on a different level, he had this sort of poor me vibe about him. He's telling Jack his woes about his marriage, but what I'm hearing is, poor me, I made a bad decision, and now I have to deal with the consequences. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be married to Billy is the thing. I'm not saying he doesn't have redeemable qualities. It's just I cannot deal with that. But it's funny how Billy sees Jack as this hero. They're both addicts at the end of the day, and Jack is doing a really good job of being there for his brother. I wonder if Billy is going to be there in return for Jack. I really hope that everything that's going on with Phyllis and Summer and the paternity is not going to just knock Jack right off the wagon and start having him use the pills again, because he's going to have a new daughter that he's going to have to be a good role model for. So I hope that that doesn't knock Jack too far off track. Now, Billy realizes that Victoria has gone to the ranch, so he goes to the ranch to see her. Now, Victoria is not there. She's decided to take Reed and go to DC to be with, or I'm sorry, to take Johnny and go to DC to be with Reed and JT and Mac, and so Billy runs into Nikki instead. And Nikki's very cold to him at first. Victoria's not painted a very pretty picture. Of course, the picture that she's painted to her parents is that she's completely right and Billy is the screw-up. So Nikki is very cold to him until he starts to talk about his addiction, and they really start to be open about what it's like to struggle. They both have different addictions, but it's the same problem inside. And so it was kind of nice to see them connecting on that level. I think that Billy got Nikki into a little bit of a tender place until Victor walked in. Victor sees them talking. He's very not happy that Billy is there. He's not convinced by anything that Billy is saying, and he really is very unkind to Billy, making him feel like he is just the absolute scum of the earth. Get out of my house, get out of my daughter's life. He said some negative remarks about Billy's addiction, and it really rang a bell with Nikki. They were just talking about that. Billy makes it seem like because Billy's an addict, he's worthless. And Victor's wife is an addict, and you could tell that it really, really hurt her that if he was saying that about Billy, maybe deep down he felt that about her, and Nikki has a ton of guilt associated with her addiction. But she confronts Victor about it later, and he says, it's completely different. The two situations are completely different, and they are. Nikki's drinking never got Victor kidnapped. It's a pretty bad thing, but I don't know. Victor's like ready to have Victoria's divorce papers drawn up for her. Victor, when will you ever learn? Because whether Billy and Victoria stay together or not, it's their decision to make. In all of these years, you would think that Victor would have learned by now that pushing Victoria only gets him the result that he doesn't want. Like, Victor just needs to butt out and let Victoria decide for herself what's best for herself. Kevin did the right thing. He did not steal the $200,000 coin. He really wouldn't have had the opportunity to. It was a weird standoff between Kevin and Alex where Kevin reveals that he knew all along it was a setup, and Alex kind of implied that he didn't really think that Kevin was going to take it because the key didn't really go to the evidence room anyway. I'm I think really enjoying the interaction between Kevin and Alex. Kevin also helped Alex out a bit by recovering an audio recording of the real thief who stole the coin, and that maybe gave Kevin some good guy points with Alex. I just think Alex and Kevin have some things in common, even though Alex is on the good side of the law and Kevin tends to be on the opposite side of the law, but they both have lady problems, and it was really such a joy for me this week to see that Alex and Abby are calling it quits. Abby tromps into the police station, and I think in her mind this is very romantic, but she tells Alex that for the 4th of July, she wants to helicopter them out of Genoa City and out to Navy Pier in Chicago for a grand fireworks show. A friend that she has owns a boat or something or other. Something lavish that is totally outside of Alex's personality. Alex is not a whisked away in a helicopter kind of guy. She should know that. She doesn't even obviously know him at all. His idea of a good 4th of July is throwing some hot dogs on the grill and maybe watching some fireworks from your balcony. You don't know that that's the kind of guy he is? So I was glad that they just decided to call it quits. You could see it in Alex's eyes. He wanted to be rid of her. He was over it. I think he has affection for her, but just realizes this is not a good relationship for either of them. They had a nice hug goodbye. Let's leave it at that and free Alex up for crying out loud to get involved with someone. Someone, please. Now, at the same time, the lady cop in the station, I don't know her name, sorry, but she's encouraging Kevin to go out and be with his family. Kevin has come into the office on a holiday and he's all hangdog, and she says, hey, why don't you get out there and be with your family? So Kevin calls up Chloe and asks if he can see Delia, maybe do some fireworks, have a fun time. And the problem is, though, Delia is sick. She has a very high fever. Chloe has taken her into the hospital, and she doesn't call Kevin. She doesn't keep Kevin up to date. She calls Billy, and of course, rightly so. Billy is her father, but didn't call Kevin at all. Didn't think to keep him in the loop. Whether things are going okay in your relationship or not with Kevin, I do think that Delia sees him as a father, a figure, someone who is a daily part of her life. I do think that Kevin should have been there, but it seems as if this Delia sickness thing, of course, is just kind of a plot device again to bring Chloe and Billy back together. What do you guys think about that? I think Billy was really cute in the hospital room. He realizes that Delia is going to be missing the fireworks, so he brings these crazy firework things and a crazy firework hat, like safe light, like LED lights or something, and he's having fun and trying to cheer her up. Billy is a big kid. That's really what he is when it all boils right down. Now, I thought it was interesting that Billy and Chloe had a conversation when they were in the hospital room about Delia's leukemia. It was kind of a, just a summary of why she was there, and they talked a little bit about the situation that had gone down around Delia's sickness. The fact that Victor had Billy kind of held hostage, and he let Billy loose just to give bone marrow to his daughter, and Kevin was in the position of having to keep this secret, and I had forgotten about that storyline, and I just remembered, though, how surprised I was that Chloe forgave everyone for that when the truth came out, because, I mean, both of them, both Kevin and Billy, I think Billy should have been man enough to be like, forget you, Victor. It was all Victor's mental manipulation, making Billy feel like he wasn't good enough to be around his family. Billy should have been man enough to be with his daughter at any cost. And Kevin was just perpetuating what he knew was a horrible thing. So I was surprised that she forgave them for both of them for that. So anyway, Kevin shows up also at the hospital. He calls Chloe. She tells him that Delia's in the hospital, so he shows up and he's being all friendly with her and really helped lighten the mood. Delia needs Kevin and Billy, it seems, in her life. Just because Kevin and Chloe have broken up doesn't mean that Kevin's no longer involved in her life, but Kevin at the same time should have been thinking about Delia when he was out robbing houses. He decided that that was more important to him than Chloe and the family, and he feels totally left out because Chloe isn't keeping him in the loop, but he needs to fight. If this is what he wants, if his family is what he wants, he should be fighting for it. He should be choosing it, and he simply wasn't. Now that Delia is out of the woods, they were very worried that it was going to be something way more serious, but it was just a high fever. She just had a cold. I am wondering if the way things are headed, if Chloe is going to end up finding herself having to choose between two daddies, very similar to what's going on with Chelsea. But frankly, I think neither Kevin or Billy are really the model of maturity and fatherhood. Victor gets back from Tuscany and he's ready to get back into the swing of things at his company, and he brings Adam a gift. He has a meeting with Adam, brings him a gift. It's a knife to put in his back, perhaps? Very a tense moment between Victor and Adam. Melanie ends up showing up, and you know what? I kind of liked her a little bit more this week. Last week I was ready to just brush her off to the side. It was too soon for sex, but I liked her a little bit more this week. That she just had a little bit more of a personality. Now, I got it, again, a really good voicemail from Patricia, my YNR chat friend, making a good point about Adam and his relationships. Just like the couple weeks ago when Sharon was saying that bad Adam was attracted to her when she was good, and now that she's bad, he doesn't really want to have anything to do with her. And it's sort of similar with Adam and Chelsea. Good Chelsea was attracted to Adam, but now bad Chelsea isn't. It's almost like opposite attracts. If you're bad, you need someone who's good to balance you out. If you're good, you kind of want someone who's bad, right? And I think Melanie and Adam, they're both, it's too much bad. There's no balance in the relationship, so I'm not saying that I want them together at all. Adam is using her, she's using him, and sex just seems to be a plus. Adam plants information to Melanie about a secret acquisition he's planning to make. I mean, he knows that she's spying and she's feeding information back to Victor, so Adam's going to give her some untrue information to feed back to Victor. And Melanie, she was very pleased with herself. Like, as soon as Adam told her that, she ran off in the corner again and called Victor and couldn't wait to report. She even goes out to the ranch to give him personal information. Victor was so rude to her. I don't know why she would want to work for him anyway. But Victor is not moved. He says to Melanie, he just makes a comment about how Adam will never go through with an acquisition that Victor doesn't approve because, above all, Adam wants approval from his father. That's more important to him than any business deal. And I think that probably would have been true until, before Adam found out that Melanie was spying. Melanie goes back to Adam and they have a little brief interaction where he calls her out as a spy. He says, I know what you're doing. I'm not having it. But what you can do now is you're going to be a reverse spy for me. He basically tells her that you have to continue this ruse. You have to tell me what's going on Victor's end, as if Victor's really going to give anything up anyway. But she has to do this or her career is over. It kind of leaves her between a rock and a hard place. She sort of has to now reverse spy for Adam, or she's never going to be able to practice law anywhere else again. So Adam dominates once again. Yeah, Adam likes to be on top. We got to meet Stitch this week. We learned that he's called Stitch because he's a medic with the army. I wonder what his real name is. I don't think they said that. I'd prefer to call him by his real name. Stitch is a little weird to me, but there was some little trips down memory lane between he and Dylan. Stitch said that he stitched Dylan up one time after he fell off of a camel, and they became really good friends after that. But there was this element of more going on than meets the eye, and it was interesting. I do like this facet of the storyline. Betsy called in to my YNR chat voicemail and said a lot of people have been not feeling the Dylan, and she really brought it up. Says she loves Dylan, and I do like him too. I like the actor. I think for the most part the character had a lot of potential. I just feel like YNR needs to pull it back. They just really laid it on way too thick between he and Chelsea, and it just really got to make me a little bit ill. I'd rather focus on more of Dylan's past. So I am glad about Stitch. There's definitely a lot more going on than we know. I mean, I don't know if it seemed that there was a decision between Dylan and Stitch that Stitch is not going to reveal what happened, this thing that happened to Dylan. And I don't know if it's what we saw, that his friend Sullivan had been shot, or if there's more to the story. In my head, have always felt like there's got to be more to this story. Why was Dylan not, why did he allow himself to be presumed dead? Why didn't he come back? Was he wandering around? What happened in the time gap where everybody, including his family, thought he was dead? There's got to be more to the story. I really want to know what it is. I'm hoping that Stitch is going to help us know what it is. And furthermore, I'm also hoping that Stitch will see right through Chelsea. Stitch has a child that's 3 years old. He's been through a pregnancy, so maybe he'll see her, realize she's not, she's farther along than she says she is. Chelsea cannot keep this secret forever. It is going to blow up sooner or later. She is trying to wash away everything that happened with Adam, and it's just not that easy. She's gone back to her hotel room this week to give away some of her stuff. She's moving into Dylan's place, and she comes walking down the athletic club stairs with a box of items that she's given to charity. She almost falls when Adam happens to be there to catch her. And Dylan also rushes back in, puts all the things back in the box, and right on top is the blanket that Adam had given to their child, and it had to have hurt him. It had to have crushed him. This is a blanket that he picked out for his child, and he gave to her as maybe a goodwill gesture, maybe a way to make her feel bad. I don't know, but Chelsea is giving this sentimental thing to charity. Why didn't she just give it back to Adam? It's like with her, it's out of sight, out of mind, but it's not so much for Adam. Now he's thinking again about, could this be my child? He's going it over and over again and in his head about her, what's the due date? Is there any way this could have been my kid? He's still not letting it go, still feeling that the child is his, and it is. Chelsea's so bad. She's just become so bad. She's very manipulative with all of her pregnancies. This is the same situation she was kind of in when she came onto the show. And I thought it was very interesting that as she fell on the stairs, almost, Adam caught her. Dylan comes up and they throw a little bit of a bone to Adam and say, you know, and thank him for catching her. And Dylan said to Adam, you know, if you wouldn't have been here, Chelsea would have fallen. Yeah, I'll say, it's just too bad that she's falling anyway. Saving the best for last. Carmine is watching that videotape of Lauren over and over on a loop, and he meets this woman who's basically a Lauren lookalike at the coffee house. He's ready to pounce on her. He thinks it's Lauren. She turns around, it's not. But there's a little bit of sexual chemistry there, so he'll keep that in his back pocket. Paul sees this whole thing, realizes exactly what's going on, and Paul threatens him, just tells him, I'm telling you once again, stay away from my family or the people that I care about. And Carmine brings up Ricky to Paul. He said something to Paul like, this is coming from a man who shot his own son. Ooh, that was bad. I mean, I couldn't even believe he said that. It shocked Paul, and I think it made him really, really reassess and have to maybe live through again everything that happened with Ricky. I think there are probably moments where Paul doesn't think about it, and then there are moments where it's all he can think about. And Paul pulls out a picture of Ricky and looks at it in his wallet, and it made me so, I want Ricky to come back. Bringing Ricky back would be like the single greatest thing that Y&R could do. He was so good for the show, and I don't believe he's dead for a moment. We never saw the body. And somebody stole that knife. I'm sorry, it's just way too convenient. I think that Ricky's still alive, but Paul goes to what he thinks is his son's grave, and he talks out loud a little bit. I don't know, I think Y&R must be needing to get the most bang out of their buck for that gravesite. Like, I wonder if that set, you know, like, I wonder if they put Ricky's gravestone right next to Cassie's. Everybody's going to the graveyard this week, or these past couple weeks, but Paul's there, and he's kneeling, and he's talking out loud about his guilt, and the guilt that he's felt over the past year, and how he's trying to move on. And Paul has this moment of declaring that he's choosing to forgive himself for what happened. And I don't know, there was something about that felt a little harsh. I don't know, I'm not saying that Paul needs to carry this weight forever. He doesn't. But it just felt a little bit to me like Paul was just choosing to absolve himself of everything that had happened. Because ultimately, the crux of Ricky's character was that he wanted a relationship with his father. His father was never there, and it screwed him up. I mean, add onto the pile that he has a crazy mother who he wasn't really raised by, but he's got crazy genes. He comes to Genoa City, and Paul, you know, they didn't connect, and Ricky seemed to keep trying to want to get Paul's attention, and Paul was way too focused on Heather, and you know, their relationship didn't get off to a good start, but it became revealed down the road about how much Ricky had admired Paul. So it wasn't just that Ricky was a bad person. He had a reason for being the way he was, and part of it was because he didn't get raised by his father. Paul wasn't there for him. So there was just, I don't know, a part of me that was thinking, well, I don't know, it seemed a little too like Paul was just trying to kind of absolve himself, like just, you know, be done with it. I don't know, maybe they're just trying to wrap up that storyline once and for all. But anyway, on to the bigger part. Surprise, surprise, a woman who works in Michael's law office happened to shoot and kill her husband for having an affair along with the other woman that was having an affair with her husband. Gee. Wonder where this is headed. Carmine's murder, perhaps? I don't know. But Paul tells Michael, why would you even want to take this case? Michael's wanting to help this woman and discussing it with Paul, and Paul says, you don't need this, I don't think you should, but Michael feels compelled to give the woman a consultation. and he's listening to her explain, you know, how it happened, and like that she blacked out during the actual incident, but then she also explained her thought process and how she was feeling, and it just rang a little too close to home for Michael. He did not to take the case. He said, you know, he was telling Paul, it felt like it was listening to my own thoughts. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, murder is happening. Carmine's dead man walking. But, you know, Paul's, of course, glad that Michael decides not to do this. I mean, we all know that Michael's gonna want to kill Carmine. He's gonna be thinking of it. Carmine is busy recreating one of his favorite sex moments with Lauren. Can you believe this? He hooks up with the lookalike girl. She comes to his hotel room and he creates one of the situations that he had with Lauren almost like word for word and scene for scene. Ugh. Right down to the chocolate covered strawberries he wants to give her, and it's so weird. There's the Lauren lookalike. I don't know if he paid her for this. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think it was just a random hookup. And she was at first kind of flattered, like, all right, we'll play that game. I'll pretend that I'm somebody else. But it becomes clear. He's calling her Lauren in bed. It becomes clear that this is weird. I mean, okay, I will give you this. Carmine does have a nice body. Yes, he does. He looked good in the bed scene with the Lauren lookalike. The actor is hot, but Carmine is a jerk. I just cannot help like salivating for him to die. It's so weird that he slept with this woman and really he's obsessed. It's absolutely to an obsessed level. And I am wondering though if when he dies they're gonna the athletic club's gonna pull up the video cameras maybe for outside of Carmine's room, and I wonder if that lookalike is gonna make it look like Lauren was in there still having the affair with him. I think that's gonna come into play in maybe a security camera kind of way. But the big reveal this week was that Carmine was secretly videotaping himself having sex with Lauren. I don't know why I didn't see this coming. He's such a scumbag. He's going to die for that. There's no question in my mind. There was a scene of him going to download the video from some site, so I don't know if he uploaded it to some kind of video sharing site and now he was downloading it again to watch it. I don't exactly know, but if that hits the internet and everybody sees this sex tape of Lauren, he totally gives me Rob Lowe vibe. Like, remember when Rob Lowe was caught videotaping all the women he was having sex with without their consent? It's like Rob Lowe's a hot guy, but he's into this just really creepy thing, really deceitful thing. It's exactly like that. And when that video gets out on the internet, it is going to both hurt and enrage Michael. It is going to shock and horrify Lauren. It's probably going to send Fenn into a deeper depression. And Paul, the threats he's been making is going to look like child's play in comparison. So I think it's going to cause all of these suspects to want to kill him, shoot him, stab him, strangle him, throw him into the bathtub with a toaster, just kill the guy and make me so happy. Leslie returns from her trip to find Rose, only to find that Rose is dead. But Rose is not really dead. I mean, the actress has been cast. We know that. We've seen the picture, and the actress is cast, so she's not dead. What Leslie did find out, though, in addition, is that Rose has a daughter. Gee! Finally, maybe it starts to make sense. It's gotta be Hillary, right? That cannot be a coincidence. Last week we saw Neil having that little moment with Hillary, like he recognized her. So now Rose has a daughter. It makes sense to me. Hillary's kind of getting pushed into the spotlight. She's causing a little bit of a problem for Kane, whether she likes it or not. I mean, I guess she's on Kane's side. She went and tattled on Jill for wanting to take some of Kane's workload to make herself look good, and so Kane confronted Jill this week and said, you know, what is this? Are you declaring war on me? It's, you know, it's causing a little bit of problem in the family, whether she wants to or not. I don't know. Hillary just must be attracted to Kane. Maybe there's something about Neil's daughters that's just attracted to Kane. But I do think that's where we're headed now. There was also another follow-up message that Neil got. I think someone had texted him maybe that he was a coward. I don't know. I feel like Neil must have had an affair with Rose and had Hillary. I don't know if Neil has any idea that he has a daughter. This is all by speculation, of course, but I don't know if he has any idea he has a daughter. But I mean, for Rose's part, having Neil's baby and then having him run out on you would definitely be enough to cause some resentment. Okay, you guys, that takes me to the end for this week. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you feel comfortable feeding back to me, letting me know what you think. Please feel free to leave me a text comment here on YouTube. You can call into the voicemail. I love hearing your voices. It really does pump me up and get me excited for doing YNR Chat. The telephone number for that is area code 309-588-4569. You can, or just leave a text comment, whatever you guys want to do. I always love hearing from you, and I will be back next week. We'll chat again. So I love you guys, and I'll see you then. Bye.